You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. You can sit at the same table, listen to the same conversations, and realize, quietly, that no one is really talking to you anymore. They don't mean to ignore you. They don't mean to hurt you, but they talk over you. They move on without waiting for your words. They make decisions without asking what you think. And you notice it. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but in small moments that slowly teach your heart a painful truth. You are still here, but you are no longer being seen. This isn't the loneliness of being alone at home. This is the loneliness of being present and feeling invisible, of realizing that your voice doesn't carry the same weight it once did. And that hurts because you remember a time when your presence mattered deeply. The most painful loneliness isn't being alone. It's being forgotten while you're still there. When you're there, but no one really notices. It doesn't happen suddenly. No one announces it. No one says, "You don't matter anymore." It happens quietly. You're still invited. You still show up. You still sit in the same rooms you always have. But something feels different. Conversations move faster now. Decisions are made without your input. Plans continue even if you don't respond. You begin to notice that your words no longer slow the room. When you speak, people nod, but their attention drifts elsewhere. They listen politely, but they don't wait. And you start to feel it. That subtle shift from being included to simply being present. From being part of the moment to being someone the moment passes by. You don't make a scene. You don't interrupt. You don't insist. You tell yourself it's fine, that this is how life goes, that people are busy, but your heart knows the truth. Because being unseen doesn't feel loud. It feels quiet. It feels like your presence doesn't change the room anymore. And that realization lands slowly, not as anger, but as a soft ache that stays with you long after everyone leaves. You didn't lose your voice. The world just stopped pausing to hear it. 2. How you slowly learned to stay quiet. At first, you spoke up. You shared your thoughts. You offered your opinion. You tried to stay involved. But over time, you noticed something. People were in a hurry. They finished your sentences. They moved on before you could finish your thought. So you adjusted. You began to speak less. You waited longer. You chose your moments carefully. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you didn't want to interrupt. You didn't want to slow anyone down. You didn't want to feel like you were in the way. So you became quieter. You listened more than you spoke. You nodded instead of explaining. You smiled instead of correcting. And slowly, without meaning to, you taught the world something painful. That it was okay to pass over you. Not because you agreed, but because you stayed silent. This silence wasn't weakness. It was adaptation. It was your way of staying connected in a world that had less patience for your pace. But silence has a cost. Because when your voice isn't heard, your presence starts to feel optional. And the more you hold back, the easier it becomes for others to forget to ask what you think. You didn't choose invisibility. You learned it, one quiet moment at a time. 3. When no one asks what you think anymore. One day, you notice something subtle. No one asks you anymore. They decide where to go. They decide what's best. They decide without turning to you first. Not because you don't care, not because you wouldn't help, but because it no longer occurs to them that your thoughts might matter. You hear about plans after they're made. You're informed, not consulted. Included, but not involved. And that hurts in a way that's hard to explain. Because you remember a time when people relied on your judgment, when your experience carried weight, when your voice shaped outcomes. You didn't suddenly lose wisdom. Life just moved into a rhythm that no longer pauses for you. And the pain isn't about control. It's not about needing things your way. It's about feeling useful, relevant, still part of the story. When no one asks what you think, it quietly tells your heart that your role has changed. that you've gone from contributor to observer. And even if you understand it logically, emotionally, it feels like being set aside. You don't want authority. You don't want attention. You just want to know that your years of living, your mistakes, your lessons, your care, still means something to the people you love. Being ignored hurts, but being no longer needed hurts even more. 4. Being loved, but no longer included. Your family still loves you. You know that. They say it. They show it in small ways. And yet, something still feels missing. Because love doesn't always mean inclusion. They care about you, but their lives no longer revolve around you. They talk about things you don't understand anymore. They reference moments you weren't part of. They laugh about stories that happened while you weren't there. You sit with them, but the world they live in feels unfamiliar. Faster, louder, more crowded. And slowly, you realize you're no longer inside their rhythm. You're on the edge of it. They don't mean to push you out. They're just moving forward and forgetting to look back. You understand this with your mind. You've lived long enough to know how busy life can become. But your heart doesn't measure love by intention. It measures love by belonging, by being included without asking, by being thought of before decisions are made, by feeling like your presence still shapes the moment. So when inclusion fades, loneliness quietly takes its place. Not because you're unloved, but because you're no longer woven into the fabric of daily life. And that kind of loneliness hurts in a way that feels deeply personal. You don't feel lonely because they don't love you. You feel lonely because life moved on and forgot to bring you with it. 5. Why you don't say anything about how this feels. You don't talk about this pain, not because it isn't real, but because you're careful. You don't want to sound ungrateful. You don't want to create tension. You don't want to be seen as difficult. You've already watched how easily people move on when things feel uncomfortable. So you choose silence. You tell yourself, they didn't mean it. They're just busy. This is how life goes. And maybe that's true. But silence has consequences. Every time you swallow your words, your heart learns to carry more alone. Every time you smile instead of speaking, you push your needs a little further back. You're afraid that if you say something, if you admit how unseen you feel, they might pull away even more. That they'll label you sensitive, or needy, or too much. So you protect the relationship by shrinking yourself inside it. You give less feedback. You ask fewer questions. You lower your expectations. And on the surface, everything looks peaceful. But inside, a quiet loneliness settles in. The kind that comes from loving people while slowly disappearing from their world. You stay quiet not because you don't feel pain, but because you're afraid that speaking might cost you connection. 6. What this loneliness is really doing to you. Living this way, being present but unseen, changes you slowly. Not in ways others can easily notice, but in ways your heart feels every day. You begin to doubt yourself. You wonder if you're saying the wrong things, if you're too slow, too quiet, too emotional, too much, or not enough. You start to question whether your presence still adds value, and that doubt seeps into places it doesn't belong. You hesitate before speaking. You replay conversations in your mind. You pull back before offering help. Not because you've lost confidence, but because confidence needs reflection. It needs to be seen to stay alive. You also begin to protect yourself emotionally. You feel less. You expect less. You hope less. Because hoping means risking disappointment. So you settle into a careful distance. Still loving, still caring, but with fewer expectations. And that's the quiet tragedy of this kind of loneliness. It doesn't break you loudly. It wears you down gently. It teaches you to take up less space in rooms you once filled with your presence. Not because you became smaller, but because the world around you stopped making room. When you're unseen for too long, you don't just feel lonely. You start to forget how much you matter. 7. Remembering that you still matter. Here is something loneliness rarely tells you. Your value did not disappear just because the world stopped asking for it as often. You didn't become less wise. You didn't lose depth. You didn't suddenly have nothing to offer. Your life simply moved into a quieter chapter. And quiet is often mistaken for unimportance. But your years still hold meaning. The patience you learned, the mistakes you survived, the care you gave when no one was watching, the strength it took to keep going even when appreciation faded. None of that vanished. Being unseen does not erase who you are. It only means others forgot how to look. And while it hurts to no longer be at the center of things, you are still part of the story. You are still shaping people, sometimes without realizing it, in the way you listen, in the calm you bring into a room, in the steadiness you offer just by being present. You don't need to compete with noise. You don't need to demand attention. Your worth was never meant to be loud. It was meant to be lived. And even now, especially now, your presence carries weight in ways that don't always announce themselves. You were never invisible. You were simply living a kind of value that doesn't shout. 8. You are still here. If you've been feeling unseen for a long time, please hear this. You are not fading. You are not disappearing. You are not becoming irrelevant. You are still here, still breathing, still feeling, still carrying a life that mattered, and still matters. Being unseen does not mean you were unimportant. It means the world around you forgot to slow down enough to notice. And that forgetfulness says more about the pace of life than it ever says about your worth. You don't need to prove yourself again. You don't need to fight for space. You don't need to explain why this hurts. It hurts because you cared, because you showed up, because you invested your heart in people and places that once needed you deeply. And even if your role has changed, your presence has not lost its meaning. There are still moments waiting for you, moments that don't require you to be useful or helpful or strong, moments that only ask that you be here. Let this be one of them. Sit with yourself for a moment longer. Breathe without rushing. Feel without fixing. You are not alone in this, and you are still seen, right here.